Welcome to the DCNR Community Conservation Partnerships Program session for Recreation and Conservation Planning. My name is Trish Nudek. I'm a Recreation and Conservation Advisor in the Community Parks and Recreation section. Our section is within DCNR's Bureau of Recreation and Conservation Division. The Community Parks and Recreation section manages park development and park planning grants throughout the Commonwealth. Our section is led by Sherry Motter and includes small community specialist Beth Helterbrand and Recreation Conservation Advisors Ashley Schultz, Rick Bogart, Olivia Braun, and Ethan Strickler. During this planning breakout, we will build on information presented in the general session. If you missed the general session, you are strongly encouraged to watch the video on the DCNR YouTube channel. It is packed with great information for completing a high-quality grant application. This planning breakout will address grant applications for comprehensive recreation park open space and greenway plans, master site development plans, swimming pool complex feasibility studies, indoor recreation facility feasibility studies, conservation management and stewardship plans. Detailed information about other project types such as park development, trails, rivers, land acquisition, and partnerships are also available on DCNR's YouTube channel. As mentioned in the general session, please contact your Bureau Regional Advisor before you start a grant application to explain your proposed planning project, discuss the DCNR grant application requirements, and schedule a project site visit. Applicants that discuss their project with a Bureau Regional Advisor typically submit higher quality applications, which puts them in better position to be selected for funding. This map shows the name and contact information for the regional advisors that serve the 6 Bureau designated regions of Pennsylvania. Please contact the regional advisor who serves the area in which your project is located as soon as possible. Their schedules fill up quickly, so it is never too early to contact them. The typical application review and award process is summarized on this slide. The open application period is January 16th through April 3rd, 2024. Park development and planning applications compete within each Bureau region. Applications are evaluated by a DCNR regional advisor and grant and project manager. Applications are scored based on the quality of the ready-to-go checklist items, scope of work, detailed budget, and criteria question responses. Grants are awarded from a regional budget allocation in score order from highest to lowest score. The grant program is very competitive. Your planning application will compete with park development projects in your region. Statewide, we typically receive more than 200 applications for park development and planning projects requesting nearly $40 million. The primary source of funding for planning projects is the Keystone Recreation Park and Conservation Fund. Very limited funding is also available through the Environmental Stewardship Fund, known as Growing Greener. Funding priorities include plans for rehabilitation of existing park and recreation facilities and plans that address recreation for all. Eligible applicants include municipalities, municipal authorities, councils of government, conservation districts, school districts, and nonprofits. We strongly encourage partnering with municipal applicants because they are eligible to receive funding from our largest funding source, the Keystone Fund. Nonprofits are only eligible for the Environmental Stewardship Fund, which is very limited. Eligible projects include planning for recreation and conservation facilities. And again, funding priorities include plans for rehabilitation of existing park and recreation facilities and plans that address recreation for all. DCNR provides scope of work and guidelines based upon the type of planning project. Grant requests are based upon quotes from qualified consultants. The typical grant award is between $25,000 to $75,000, depending on the planning project type and size. Finally, the grant requirement is dollar for dollar. So if the grant request is for $25,000, the applicant will be required to provide $25,000 match, which means that the total project cost would be $50,000. Additional budget information will be provided shortly, but first, let's review the types of planning projects that DCNR helps fund. The Comprehensive Recreation Park Open Space and Greenway Plan is a municipal, county, or regional plan for long-term development, use, and management of a park or recreation system. A qualified consultant leads a planning process that analyzes the community vision, existing services, facilities, resources, and organizational capacity, assesses access and future needs, and then establishes priorities, actions, and cost estimates for implementation. Public participation is a substantial component of the planning process and is required by DCNR. The deliverable is a narrative report. Please review the Bureau's Comprehensive Recreation, Park, and Open Space Plan Scope of Work and the Public Participation Guide for additional information as you prepare your application. Most planning applications are for master site development plans. The Master Site Development Plan is a site-specific plan for development, rehabilitation, use, and management of a park or recreation facility. Master Site Development Plan applications are limited to one site only. A qualified consultant leads a planning process that analyzes the community vision, site information, activities, facilities, maintenance operations, assesses access and future needs, and then establishes priorities, actions, and cost estimates for implementation. Public participation is a substantial component of the planning process and is required by DCNR. The deliverable is a narrative report and a site development drawing. Please review the Bureau's Master Site Development Plan Scope of Work and Public Participation Guide for additional information as you prepare your application. DCNR also helps to fund feasibility studies for swimming pools and indoor recreation facilities. A swimming pool complex may include the pool, bathhouse, concessions, parking, accessibility, and other site amenities. An indoor recreation facility may include a recreation center, gymnasium, indoor ice rink, indoor multi-sport complex, parking, accessibility, and other site amenities. A qualified consultant analyzes the community support, market characteristics, legal, financial capability to acquire, develop, rehabilitate, manage, and sustain a facility. DCNR also requires a structural assessment for an existing facility. Feasibility study applications are limited to one site only. Public participation is an important component of the planning process and is required by DCNR. The deliverable is a narrative report. Please review the Bureau's Swimming Pool Complex Feasibility Study Scope of Work or the Indoor Recreation Facility Feasibility Scope of Work for additional information as you prepare your application. It is important to note that a completed feasibility study is required before DCNR will consider grant applications to build or rehabilitate a swimming pool or indoor recreation facility. And finally, DCNR helps to fund conservation, management, and stewardship plans. Typically, a qualified consultant analyzes its conservation and management of natural areas and critical habitat, as well as public access and passive recreation opportunities. Then they establish priorities, actions, and cost estimates for implementation as appropriate. As with all plans, public participation is required by DCNR. The deliverable is a narrative report, which may include a site development drawing. The Bureau does not provide scope of work for this project type because projects are wide-ranging. We encourage collaboration with a conservancy or land trust to develop a project-specific scope of work. As mentioned in the general session, DCNR partnered with the Trust for Public Land and We Conserve PA to use GIS to understand access to outdoor recreation in Pennsylvania. Maps and data are available on the Pennsylvania Outdoor Recreation Plan webpage illustrating 10-minute walk access by county and municipality, 10-minute drive access for trails and water. This is a great resource for answering several criteria questions, developing a project scope of work, and supporting a future planning process. Grant applications are scored out of a maximum of 100 points. Points are earned through demonstration that your project is ready to go, answers to grant criteria questions, consistency with local, county, or regional plans, and partnerships. Our grant program is competitive. Each point matters. Ready to go status for planning applications is based on the following. For master site development plans and feasibility studies for existing facilities, the applicant must own the project site or control it through a lease with a minimum term of 25 years. Applicants must demonstrate a secured dollar-for-dollar grant match and provide commitment letters detailing the source and the amount of the match. Information about eligible non-cash and cash matches are provided through the frequently asked questions within the More Info page on the grant portal. The applicant must provide a clear and detailed scope of work, DCNR staff reviewing the application should be able to clearly identify the purpose, goals, and objectives of the plan. Finally, the applicant must provide a realistic and detailed budget. A lump sum budget is not acceptable. The highlighted items on the planning ready-to-go checklist must be addressed for the project to be considered for funding. We often receive detailed budgets that are unrealistic and lack detail. So it's important to develop a detailed budget that corresponds with your scope of work. When developing your budget, think about the purpose, goals, and objectives of the planning project. Review the appropriate Bureau guidelines and example scope of work and tailor it to your specific project and include your scope of work with your application. Discuss the planning project with several qualified consultants that have experience completing similar planning projects. Solicit detailed quotes from at least 2 qualified consultants and consider these quotes when making your grant requests. Again, lump sum quotes are not acceptable. And understand that a request for proposal process will be required for awarded projects. A detailed budget template is available on the grant portal for download. The cost categories are as follows. Contracted professional services are provided under a contract or a professional service agreement. Donated professional services are provided at no cost to the applicant by a professional qualified to perform the work. Other project costs, such as cash costs versus non-cash values, may include costs for public advertisements, meeting room rentals, and document production. Refer to DCNR's frequently asked questions or facts for additional guidance about the budget development. The criteria questions for a planning application are provided on the next few slides. These criteria questions are nearly identical to those reviewed in detail during the general session, with one exception. If you missed the general session, you are strongly encouraged to watch the video on the DCNR YouTube channel. It is packed with great suggestions to think through how to answer each of the criteria questions in a way that is specific to your project. I will briefly review each question now. Criteria question number 1. Needs, benefits, and urgencies. Think about how the planning project was identified and why it is needed. Note if the plan or study is urgent and explain why. What will be the outcome when the planning process is complete? And how will the community benefit? The access to outdoor recreation data may be a great resource to help answer this question. Criteria question number 2. Climate resiliency, green and sustainable practices. Think about how the planning project will address climate resiliency and green and sustainable practices in the study area. Is it a priority of the planning process? And if so, why? The DCNR Green and Sustainable Community Parks webpage may be a great resource to help you think through this question. Criteria question number 3. Access for all and ADA accessibility. Think about how the planning project will improve access for people of all abilities and address the 2010 ADA standards for accessible design in the study area. Is it a priority of the planning process? If so, why? Again, the access for outdoor recreation data may be a great resource to help answer this question. Criteria question number 4, public involvement. Explain how the public was involved in identifying the need for the planning project. Is the planning project a priority of a previously completed planning process? For example, if you are proposing to complete a master site development plan for a specific park, state if the park is identified as a high priority in the local comprehensive plan. Also, if awarded a grant, how will the public be engaged during the planning process? Explain your expectations for public participation. Criteria question number 5, PA Outdoor Recreation Plan. Explain how the planning project will implement the actions in the 2020 to 2024 PA Outdoor Recreation Plan. Will the planning project implement a 2023 Bureau priority? For planning projects, priorities are rehabilitation of existing facilities and recreation for all. The general session was particularly helpful for answering this question, and again, the video is available on the DCNR YouTube channel. Criteria question number 6, operation, maintenance, and stewardship. This is a question that is slightly different from the one discussed during the general session for development projects. For this question, describe your capacity to implement the plan or study once it is complete. Cite specific examples of past successes. This can be illustrated in a few ways. You may have successfully implemented elements of a local comprehensive plan or previously managed state and federal grants. Or You may have partnered with other organizations or friends groups to implement plans and complete high-priority projects. For the project plan section, identify and briefly describe the 3 most relevant local, county, and/or regional plans that the planning project will advance. Including statewide plans will not provide points for your application. As mentioned previously, if you are proposing to complete a master site development plan for a specific park, state if the park is identified as high priority in the local comprehensive plan. You should list the comprehensive plan and provide a brief description. Also, please note if the planning project will be the first for the community or a specific facility. Finally, for project partners, identify all major partners providing financial assistance, technical assistance, or general support. Each partner should provide a commitment or support letter. Planning projects that cross several municipal boundaries will require support letters from all affected municipalities. If the applicant is providing all match and does not require technical support, general support letters from stakeholder organizations that will be involved in the planning process must be provided. As we approach the end of the planning breakout, here are a few tips for submitting a high-quality and successful application. Contact your Bureau Regional Advisor now. It is never too early. Review the grant program frequently asked questions and the Bureau's planning scope of work guidelines for your specific project type. Involve a qualified design consultant early in the process and solicit a detailed cost estimate to help determine your grant request. Be sure to explain how the plan or study will address applicable Bureau priorities when answering the criteria questions. Reference the help text within the grant application for guidance and helpful resources. As discussed during the general session, the grant application and DCNR review process takes several months. If awarded a grant, the project start date will be approximately 1 year after application, so plan accordingly. Remember that this breakout session and other grant-related presentations are available on DCNR's YouTube channel. We encourage you to revisit these presentations as you start your application. Also, the frequently asked questions and planning application guidance documents are available on the DCNR Grants portal. Our portal address is shown on this slide. Click on the Grant Opportunities in the upper left corner, and then click the More Information button next to the Community Recreation Conservation Planning section. Thanks for attending the planning breakout session. Please contact your regional advisor today.